was trying to think before I turned the camera on where Dayna and I kind of left off with the garden. Not necessarily like where we left off, working, where we left off video-wise. We pretty much have been working on it every day. If we haven't been working in the garden, we've been either picking up materials or trying to work out the fence and this, that, and the next thing. But I thought I would just kind of talk for a few minutes and kind of catch you guys up to where we are. I'll have to look back to see what I did and didn't record. But basically right now, Dayna and I have all of the posts in. That might have been the last thing that I remember actually like taping. And I did spend a little bit of time the day after the posts were done using my buddy's laser level to basically just make a line around the entire garden on the poles, meaning I just set the level at 48 inches. I basically marked the last post at 48 inches. Then I set the level, found where that was, and then I basically just made a mark on every post so that I had a level line all the way around the garden. I knew that if I didn't use that 4-foot mark and I needed it to be 60 inches or 36 inches, I could just measure off of my original mark and I'd be fine. So I just figured I would at least get a level mark all the way around the garden so that I'd have that for future use. And it worked out really nicely because, as you can see, we basically started putting up the stringers in between the fence posts. And that's basically what we're doing today. We were trying to wait for the mud to kind of dry out a little bit. One, because my truck is basically, I can't believe I even drove my truck down here. This is a first for me. But I didn't really want to move this morning because everything was just a mess. So now that the sun's kind of coming out, I spent the morning chipping and stuff and just trying to get some odd jobs done. And now that the sun's going to pop out, I'm actually going to walk in there and kind of see what the ground's like so that Dayna and I can finish up the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 posts in the back. And then this one right here in the front is a little bit bigger than 10. So it's maybe like 10 foot 2 inches. So I got a 12-footer for there, and then same for this side over here. And then right where my truck is parked, there'll be a gate. So we're going to try and bang that out today because we're supposed to get rain for like the next 5 days. So it's only going to get worse down here instead of better. We did wind up having the lumber drop to start making the garden beds. I'm excited to show you kind of what we're doing there. We're keeping it very simple, but we'll show you kind of the layout and all that kind of stuff when we get there. But the idea is to basically get all these stringers up now so that I can order the fence, have the fence get here, and then we can start slowly piecing the fence up there while we're building the garden beds. Kind of just work with the weather, basically. But that's where we are right now. And, like I said, I'm going to set the camera up and just kind of, we'll videotape a little bit of us doing the stringers across that back as long as we can do them. I got to set the ladder up on a couple of them for Dayna to stand on. But for the most part, we're pretty excited with how it's turning out. It'll be nice to kind of get this sort of, not wrapped up, but to a point where I can go back in the house and start working, because I got a lot of tile that's already in the house just waiting to get done for the backsplash and the bathroom. And then we also ordered all the lumber to start finishing the accessory base bottom that's behind the camera right now. That way we can get the rest of the rock drop, get that all plate compacted, and order the lumber to start stick framing the building that goes on there. Once that's up, we can slide the cistern in, get that all plumbed in, and we should be good to go to start living in the house, which will be nice. Just at a perfect time, because it's going to get blistering hot in another month or two, and it'll be nice to kind of sleep in the house and not necessarily be staying in the Shabin when it's 95 degrees out. But I'm gonna set the camera up and we'll go from there, and I guess I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. Of course, we'll kind of walk you through the whole fence thing, maybe even after each stage, but certainly when it's all done. And as always, man, thanks for checking in and sticking around, and here we go. All right, guys, so this is how we've basically been doing every single post. This one just happens to be a little bit different because we're about 10 foot 2 inches in between in order to get a little bit of a shorter gate. So we have a 12-foot board, but I figured we would kind of show you what we did on every board, nice and easy. So this is the crappier of the two 12-footers. So we're actually just going to split the difference, and Dayna and I are going to scribe the inside. That way we didn't have to measure between each pole. So that's how we basically started each process. Where's your bad section?
Here.
Okay, so can you come towards me just a smidge?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And then we're just lining it up with the center line that's already on the post, splitting the difference of the board. I scribe my side, Dayna scribes hers, and now we're going to go back and make the cuts. All right, and then this is basically how we did each one. So my scribe side that was the inside gets flipped out. Not every board has to sit on the actual Kreg jig. You can use it just as a little floater like this. And then I'm basically flushing mine on the top, then flushing it on the bottom, and I'm using holes A and C so that I kind of get the hole, you know, as far to the top and the bottom. That way I get the most bite with each piece. And then just loosen it up, and then I'm just feeling towards the bottom till it gets pretty much lined up. And then clamp it down. It doesn't need to be perfect. Scratch that, it does need to be perfect. And now we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. And then just to give Dayna and I a little bit to go by, I'm just taking the ruler and I'm just making a little tiny center mark on each side so that we can line it up with the actual line that's already on the post. And now we're basically just gonna go hold it up right where it was, match those lines up with the lines that are centered on the post, and then we're actually using Kreg pocket screws to put the fence together. I don't normally buy the Kreg screws. They're way expensive, but I did splurge this time because I knew that they would do their justice and kind of seat well inside that pocket. Sometimes you can just use like a pan head screw, or I might even use a drywall screw if I'm doing something silly, but I splurged for the Kreg screws, which for the 2 boxes of 50 was like 22 bucks. So it gives you an idea. You know, for that much money, you can get like a 5-pound box of drywall screws. But we're gonna set the camera back up, and then we'll go over and put this post on, and then we have one last post, and we're basically done with all the stringers. And that's it. So we got one more post to put on the other, or one more stringer to put between the posts on the other side, and this part will be done. Next we'll be getting the fence, and we'll start wrapping the fence around. But that's pretty much how we did every single one, and actually it was pretty quick. I mean, each one only took about 5 or 6 minutes to kind of blow out and then zip in. So we're gonna set the camera up, I guess, for the last one, just so we can have it documented, and then we'll catch you guys in a little bit. All right, so unfortunately, I think that the sun is blazing out here, so it keeps shutting the video camera off. I guess the phone's getting too hot, which is a bummer because this was a project that I was excited to kind of, record, but, it's also just me putting up fence, so it's probably not that exciting, but I was able to get the first 4-foot piece up and wrapped around. That was 20 feet. And then the second was the change from the 4 to the 5, but still on the same plane. That was another 20 foot. Everything seems to go up pretty nice. It's just kind of cumbersome and, it's a little bit tough to kind of manage, but it seems like the clamps in the wood kind of hold it in place enough for me to at least start getting staples in. So basically I'm just, as you saw, I'm snapping a line where we basically split the board for the stringers. I'm just snapping a line right down the center, and then that keeps my fence line at the top. Sadly, I don't really want to cut the bottom of the welded wire, so ultimately I'm kind of digging out so that 5 foot fits in. These were probably the two hardest sections because they were the ones that were probably needing the most to be dug out. There is a little bit along this front side where the 4 foot goes to dig out as well, but I think instead of trying to wrap the fence around the corner, I'm just going to take the next 20 foot to the corner, and then the whole back will be one stretch. I don't really think, I wanted it to kind of wrap around the corner, be nice and strong, but I really don't think it'll make that much of a difference, and I think it'll be a little bit more for me to manage. But I'll try and put the camera in the shade when I set up back there, and hopefully it records a little bit for you guys. Otherwise, I'll bring you back sort of as I go along and show you what I'm doing. But I'm just using some Romex staples right now. As much as I wanted to use fence staples, they seemed like, 1.25 inch just seemed absurd. I also don't want to bring the crown nailer out here because I don't have one that's battery operated, and I don't really feel like sitting here with the air compressor running. But the galvanized, the Romex staples are working really nice. I have a ton of those, in my toolbox, so I figured I'd just at least use them until they run out. But I'm going to set up again for the next 5 foot piece, and we'll just go from there. But for a quick minute, I'm going to go get some water. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. So I just stopped to take a little lunch break, get some water. It seemed like the camera was shutting off because it was too hot out, which it's hot, but I guess it's better than snow, right? I was able to get the last little section done on this side. So the little front over here is done and then wrapped around, and then it drops down. And this is where I switched to 5 footers. This is a 4 foot welded wire. Then it switches to 5. That's why I had to dig down. And then the 5, and then it drops down. And then I finished this little section. And then I basically just took the roll all the way to the top of the hill, rolled out 62 feet. And that's what the back section is. So I'm basically all set up now to start this little back section. So I figured I'd set the camera up and see how much of it I can get before the camera shuts off. All right, we're gonna get this party started this morning. Yesterday when I got back from doing some errands, had to get some propane and some water. It was still light out, so I decided to just keep going on the fence. So I was able to get this side done as well. I know I didn't really video much, but it was just like the other two sides that I did. But I wrapped up around maybe 5:30 yesterday, and then started this morning at about 7:30. I did have to go, and you know, where the posts are, we're pretty close, you know, to where we needed them to be as far as the stringers off the ground. But as you can see, like when I got closer to the gate post, you know, it kind of grades down a little bit, or I should say up. So I had to trench out. I don't want to cut the fence. You know, I want all 48 inches on this side. You know, the fence that goes around the back is a 60-inch fence. And I did have to trench a bit this morning, which right here was not necessarily easy. I actually used a pickaxe because this is really where I was kind of scraping and backblading with the excavator. So it might as well be hard pack right here. There's really no fill dirt, so it was still full of rocks and stuff. And to have to swing the pickaxe kind of in line with the fence meant I had to be underneath that stringer, which was a little bit of a pain in the butt. But we're gonna get started this morning, and we're gonna finish up this last run of 4-foot fence right here. I know I haven't really talked about the fence, which at the end I'll say it, you know, maybe in this video or another one. But you know, like I said, the whole garden has a little bit of a grade, probably about a foot and a half, you know, all the way to the back corner over there. If I would have been able to put a little bit more fill dirt in there, I probably would have, because I still think there would have probably been a 1-foot grade once I kind of graded out the dirt back there. But it was just getting too expensive. And although we live on almost 20 acres, digging for dirt isn't really an option right now, you know, unless I wanted to create a swimming pool somewhere. You know, we are going to put a pond in, but I wasn't ready to go down there. And I knew whatever I dug was just going to be full of rocks anyway. So kind of just left it how it was. I'm going to build that corner up a little bit with the hay. I know the hay will kind of just break down a little bit, but it'll be nice. And when we set the beds, we'll just level them out. But if I haven't mentioned already, basically because of that little bit of grade, you'll see on the far corner, on the far side, you know, I stepped from, you know, one height to a foot down. And that was in an effort to close off the gap on the bottom of the fence. So this whole front side is 4 foot, and then it wraps around as 4 foot. And then the last little stretch right there before it drops down is a 5-foot, 60-inch fence. Then when it drops down and wraps all the way around the back is all 60-inch fencing. And then when I'm all done, I'll take you around, because the fence then steps back up at the corner, has a 60-inch fence that goes a couple sections, and then I drop back down to the 48-inch, which is what I'm wrapping around the front here. So really, I just wanted your eye, you know, I didn't want to pick up on the grade. So you know, rather than have a slant, you know, I just, you know, stepped it up and down once in order to kind of make it so that we had less gap on the bottom. I still think that we're going to need to go back and probably do maybe some chicken wire or something on the bottom 1-foot section of a few areas. And that'll be nice. If I use a 2-foot piece of chicken wire across the back, I can basically attach it maybe like 6 inches up, have it come down, you know, 8 inches to a foot, then wrap under. I'll load some rocks on there, and then we'll backfill with some mulch and some dirt on there. And that way it'll hold it nice and tight down, and we shouldn't worry about any small critters getting under the fence, like rabbits and stuff. But so far, so good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit tired, but when I'm done the fence here, the 48-inch fence, basically what will happen is either at 6 inches or maybe 6 inches, a foot and a foot and a half, or 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet, up the rest of the post will be like a galvanized electric fence wire. So I won't electrify it per se, but it'll basically be, you know, what gives us that added, you know, foot and a half in this front fence. And then in the back, it'll give us maybe another foot and a half. So again, keep it nice and level as we go around. So to the eye, it looks good, because, you know, it's all about the aesthetics, right? But I'm going to get started on the fence, and I'll give you guys a quick, you know, wrap around when I'm all done. And if you want to know what I've been listening to while I'm doing the fence, it's the Huey Lewis radio station on Pandora. Bam.